Have you ever noticed that some people don't even try to be the center of attention, yet somehow every eye still finds them? Like, have you ever wondered why some voices just make you lean in and listen, even when they're barely speaking above a whisper?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
that kind of presence that just, shifts the entire gravity of a room the moment they walk in.
exactly. Hey, listeners, welcome to English Made Simple, where we break down the secrets of communication to help you speak with confidence and connection.
We are so glad you're here.
Yeah, and today we have a very direct mission. We are taking a deep dive into the architecture of charismatic conversation.
Which is such a fascinating topic, really.
It is because we usually look at someone with that undeniable magnetic pull, and we just assume it's a genetic lottery ticket.
Right, like they were just born with it.
Yeah, like they have this glowing aura of charm, but when we actually break down the mechanics of how they speak, it reveals something entirely different.
Completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah, charisma isn't some magical trait. It's actually a highly specific set of learnable, intentional habits.
I always like to think of charisma like a magnet. A magnet doesn't shout to attract metal.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
It just has this invisible pull. So today, we're going to build that invisible pull in your everyday English.
Yeah, and to build that pole, you can kind of think about it like an acoustic phenomenon. We often assume the loudest instrument in an orchestra is the one controlling the emotional temperature of the room.
Right, the person talking the most.
Exactly. But true charisma operates more like a subtle bass line. It's this underlying rhythm in your speech, your focus, and your physical energy that quietly orchestrates how everyone else feels.
Wow.
You do not have to shout to be heard. You just have to tune your delivery.
I am really glad you brought up that distinction between volume and resonance, actually, because our first major topic today is exactly that, the pace and space of your words.
Which is so foundational.
It really is. When someone lacks confidence, especially if they are, speaking a second language or navigating some high-stakes professional environment, the default setting is almost always acceleration.
Oh, for sure. The words just come tumbling out.
Exactly. Why do we do that?
Well, the underlying mechanism there is it's purely physiological. When you feel anxious, your nervous system basically interprets the social pressure of a conversation as a literal physical threat.
Like a predator is in the room.
Right, exactly. Adrenaline just floods your system. Consequently, your internal clock shifts into overdrive to help you survive this perceived danger.
So your perception of time actually warps.
Yes, completely. To you, a 1-second pause feels like 10 seconds of just excruciating, dangerous silence. So your brain tells you to rush.
Just get the words out.
Yeah, you try to cram as much information into the airspace as possible before the other person, judges you or walks away.
That makes so much sense. You end up treating the conversation like a hostage negotiation where you are just rapidly running out of time.
That is a perfect analogy, yeah.
And the listener, they feel that frantic energy, right? It's exhausting for them to process.
It is incredibly exhausting.
Because it subconsciously signals that you don't actually believe your words carry enough weight to hold their attention naturally. So you have to, trap them in a wall of sound.
And that is the ultimate paradox of rushing. You speed up to keep their attention, but the sheer velocity makes it impossible for them to process what you are actually saying.
Right.
Charismatic speakers, though, they operate on a completely different frequency. They employ this calm, deliberate pace.
They don't seem rushed at all.
No, they breathe from the diaphragm rather than the upper chest, which naturally lowers the pitch of their voice and slows down their cadence. They're not afraid to let their words breathe.
So let's talk about the actual mechanics of pausing, because this is where the highly actionable advice lives.
Let's do it.
The theory is nice, but executing a pause feels incredibly unnatural when your adrenaline is spiking.
Oh, it feels terrible at first.
Right. If I just stop talking in the middle of a thought, doesn't it look like I have forgotten my lines? Or worse, doesn't it give the other person an opportunity to just interrupt and take the floor?
Well, it depends entirely on where you place the pause. If you stop randomly in the middle of a sentence, because you're, searching for vocabulary, yes, it can read as hesitation.
Okay, so where should we pause?
An intentional pause is highly strategic. Think of it like a suspension bridge.
Okay.
The empty space between the pillars is what actually gives the structure its tension and its strength. So a highly actionable tip is to bracket your most important points with silence.
Bracket them. How do you mean?
Try pausing for just a single beat before the key phrase. This acts as an auditory cue that tells the listener's brain, hey, pay attention, a resolution is coming.
Oh, I like that.
Then you deliver the phrase and you pause again. That second pause right after the point allows the concept to echo and really settle in their mind.
It's kind of like the white space on a beautifully designed page. Like, the empty space is actually what makes the text readable. The silence is what makes the words meaningful.
That is exactly it. It's the difference between throwing a tennis ball at someone continuously versus throwing it and waiting for them to catch it.
Right, that moment of suspension makes the catch possible.
Exactly. But retraining that instinct requires a tolerance for what initially feels like very awkward silence.
Which is hard.
It's very hard. You have to reprogram your relationship with stillness because stillness projects enormous self-assurance.
It shows you're not panicking.
Right. When you can comfortably hold a moment of silence without flinching, without rushing to fill the gap with filler words, you communicate that you are entirely comfortable in your own skin.
You're not desperately trying to earn the connection by, like, tap dancing for their approval.
Exactly. You do not need to earn a connection by constantly talking.
I see that. It actually reminds me of watching veteran stage actors.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like an amateur actor will rush their dialogue because they're terrified and the audience will get bored.
Right, they panic.
But the veteran will literally just stand there, doing nothing, letting the tension build until the audience is practically begging for the next word. It's power through restraint.
Power through restraint is a beautiful way to frame it. But, it brings up a crucial vulnerability in this framework.
What's that?
If you only master the pacing, the strategic pauses, and that immovable stillness, you risk projecting a type of power that is incredibly intimidating rather than magnetic.
Right, because pure power in a vacuum isn't charismatic, it's terrifying.
It really is.
If I am speaking very slowly, pausing dramatically, and staring you down without blinking.
Right. You look dangerous.
Yeah, I don't look like a charismatic conversationalist. I look like a Bond villain.
You do, which is why the second pillar of charismatic communication is absolute warmth.
Warmth.
Yeah. Evolutionary psychology tells us that humans are wired to rapidly assess two things when they meet someone new: competence and warmth.
Okay, so competence is the power we just discussed. Like, can this person execute their intentions?
Exactly. And warmth asks, what are their intentions toward me? Are they a friend or a foe?
Right.
If you project high competence but low warmth, people will respect you, but they will not like you. They'll keep their psychological guard up.
That's the classic intimidating boss scenario.
Yes.
You might listen to their instructions because you have to, but you aren't drawn to them. You're just surviving them.
Exactly.
So how do we soften that power? Because telling someone to just be warmer sounds a bit abstract.
It does.
What are the actual, behavioral levers we can pull to project warmth while maintaining that confident pace?
Well, it starts with a massive pivot in your internal focus. Most people approach a conversation with an inward-facing spotlight.
Right, thinking about themselves.
Yeah, they're constantly monitoring their own performance. Do I sound smart? Was that joke funny? Am I using the correct verb tense?
All right, we've all been there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But charisma requires flipping that spotlight outward onto the other person. The primary goal shifts from impressing them to making them feel deeply understood.
Let me challenge that slightly, though.
Go for it.
If I completely abandon my own presence to focus entirely on making you feel understood, don't I risk slipping out of a peer dynamic and sounding more like a therapist?
That's a good point.
Like, if I am just nodding and asking probing questions, the conversation becomes a one-way interview rather than a magnetic exchange.
That is a highly astute observation. True warmth is not about erasing yourself. It's about validating the shared space.
Okay.
You do not have to become an interrogator. Warmth is communicated through micro-behaviors while you interact naturally.
Take nodding, for example.
Nodding.
There's performative listening, which is that eager, rapid nodding that actually signals impatience. It's like you're trying to hurry the person up so you can speak.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. The bobblehead nod.
Yes, the bobblehead. And then there is warm listening, which is a slow, deliberate nod that signals genuine comprehension.
It's the physical manifestation of patience, basically.
Exactly. And I imagine it extends to the voice, too, the vocalics. Not just the vocabulary you choose, but the frequency and tone.
Precisely. You can say, that is an interesting point, with a flat, downward inflection. And it sounds dismissive or even sarcastic.
Right.
Or you can say the exact same words with a slight upward lilt and a genuine smile, and it sounds like an invitation.
You are actively validating their contribution to the dialogue.
Exactly. You use open phrases like, I see where you're coming from, or That resonates not to end their turn, but to anchor it.
You are essentially building a psychological safe room. You are signaling that their ideas are not going to be immediately critiqued or overshadowed.
Yes.
And by the way, if you've been enjoying listening to this, consider subscribing. It really helps us keep dissecting these communication mechanics.
That psychological safety, by the way, is the absolute core of the magnetic pole.
Really? The safety aspect.
Yes. People do not remember the exact vocabulary you used. They remember the neurological state you put them in. When someone feels safe and valued in your presence, their brain releases oxytocin. They become chemically bonded to the interaction. They literally feel better when they're around you.
It is fascinating how much of this happens below the level of conscious thought.
Most of it does.
We think we are having a logical exchange of information, but there is this entire shadow conversation happening via eye contact, vocal tone, and pacing.
And that shadow conversation is where charisma actually lives. The words are really just the vehicle.
So we have built the framework. We have the confident pace, the strategic use of silence, and that outward-focused warmth to soften the power.
Right.
Now we need to populate that framework with actual content. How do we package our ideas so they don't just sound pleasant, but actually stick in the listener's mind?
This is where we cross into authentic delivery and the mechanics of narrative.
The narrative.
Yeah. The golden rule here is prioritizing stories over pure facts. Facts are fundamentally sterile.
Right, they're just data.
Exactly. They speak to the analytical part of the brain, the neocortex. But humans are not fundamentally analytical creatures. We are emotional creatures that occasionally use logic to justify our feelings.
Yeah, if I just dump a spreadsheet of statistics onto you, your eyes will glaze over within 30 seconds.
I will complete.
No matter how profoundly important those numbers are to the conversation.
Because facts require the listener to do the heavy lifting. They have to translate raw data into meaning. Charismatic speakers do that translation for them by wrapping the data in a narrative.
So stories do the work for us.
They do. When you tell a story, something incredible happens neurologically. It's called neural coupling.
Neural coupling.
Yeah. The brain waves of the listener actually begin to synchronize with the brain waves of the speaker. They experience the emotions of the story as if it were happening to them.
That's wild. But, I think the word story actually intimidates people.
How so?
They hear that and think they need to deliver a perfectly crafted 20-minute cinematic epic with a hero's journey and a dramatic climax.
Right.
In everyday conversation, that would be insufferable.
It would be terrible. No one wants that. In daily communication, a story is simply a framed example. It could be 10 seconds long.
Okay, give me an example of a 10-second story.
So instead of stating a flat fact like traffic is terrible in this city, you say, I spent 20 minutes staring at the bumper of a garbage truck this morning.
Oh, I see.
You have replaced an abstract concept with a vivid, relatable visual. It grounds the idea in sensory reality.
And it invites them to picture the garbage truck, to actually feel the frustration. It's a shared micro-experience.
Exactly.
But there is a trap here, especially for people actively working on their language and communication skills.
That's a trap.
When you try too hard to craft the perfect micro-story, use the perfect vocabulary, and insert the mathematically perfect pause, you cross a line.
You absolutely do.
You stop sounding like a human and start sounding incredibly rehearsed.
Because the polish becomes a barrier.
Yeah, I was watching an interview with a corporate executive recently, and their delivery was so flawless, so perfectly manicured, that I completely stopped trusting them.
Right. It feels fake.
It felt like I was being handled by a public relations machine. Compare that to someone who, occasionally stumbles over a word, maybe laughs at themselves, and just keeps going. The imperfect speaker is almost always more magnetic.
What you are describing is known in psychology as the pratfall effect.
The pratfall effect.
Yeah. It dictates that highly competent people become significantly more likable when they make a small mistake.
Really?
Yeah, if you present yourself as an impenetrable fortress of perfection, you trigger anxiety in the listener. They feel like they have to match your impossible standard.
Oh, so they become defensive.
Exactly. Defensive and self-conscious.
Because perfection is not relatable. None of us are perfect.
Right.
We are constantly navigating our own flaws.
But when you stumble, when you show a crack in the armor, maybe you mispronounce a word and chuckle about it, or admit you lost your train of thought.
Which happens to everyone.
Right. When you do that, you create a bridge of authenticity. You demonstrate that you are comfortable with your own fallibility. That gives the listener's subconscious permission to relax and drop their own armor. Authenticity always overrides polish.
That plays right into the concept of energetic alignment.
Oh, big time.
Authenticity means your internal state matches your external output. If the words coming out of your mouth are highly enthusiastic, but your kinesics, your body language, your facial expressions are completely rigid.
The listener's brain registers a threat.
Right, because the signals do not match.
The human brain is a highly advanced pattern recognition machine. It evolved to detect incongruence, because incongruence usually indicates deception.
That makes sense.
If you say you are thrilled to be at a meeting, but your shoulders are slumped, your arms are crossed, and your vocal tone is flat, the listener will always 100% of the time believe the body language over the vocabulary.
Wow.
Charisma requires complete alignment. Your words, your tone, and your physical energy must all point in the exact same direction.
You have to fully inhabit what you are saying. You can't just recite it from the neck up.
Precisely.
Which brings us to the real challenge, honestly, integrating all of this. Because trying to consciously monitor your pacing, your diaphragm breathing, your strategic pauses, your warmth, your storytelling, and your energetic alignment all at once.
That is a recipe for a mental breakdown.
It really is. You would be so stuck in your own head that you would fail to hear a single word the other person said.
You absolutely would, which is why you do not try to master them all simultaneously. Charisma is built through incremental layering.
Layering. Okay.
You pick one mechanic at a time. Tomorrow, maybe you just focus on extending your pauses by 1 single second before you deliver your main point.
Just that one thing.
Just that. Next week, you focus entirely on outward warmth and softening your vocal delivery when someone else is speaking. You build muscle memory until these intentionally chosen behaviors become your new, unconscious default state.
You are basically retrofitting your communication style. It's not about becoming a completely different person.
No, not at all.
It's about systematically removing the nervous habits that obscure your natural magnetism.
Precisely. And if there's one overarching takeaway to remember, is that the most charismatic people in any room are rarely the ones trying the hardest to impress you.
Right.
They're simply the ones who possess the quiet confidence to make everyone else feel entirely at ease. So as you head into your next interaction, consider this. What is one small thing the most magnetic person you know does effortlessly that you could borrow and test out today?
I love leaving it on a tangible experiment like that. Such a great question to think about. Thank you all for joining us on this deep dive into the architecture of charismatic communication. Don't forget to like this video and drop a comment sharing your thoughts, and subscribe for more.